Hey, Bobby. Bobby, you there?
Sorry, it was both muted and
You're good.
video off.
I'm gonna make you host. I'm on a important call, so I'm gonna hop for if it's so cool for me to not be on today's call.
That's fine.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna make you the host. Just hit me up in Slack or anything if you need me.
Okay, we'll do.
All right, thank you. See ya.
Nancy, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks, man.
Good.
I don't need that. I need this. Let me jump over to here real quick. Nope. People usually this late? Guess there's 4 minutes till.
No, I don't know. It usually doesn't even like open up till a couple minutes before.
Actually, everyone just dropped out, Bobby. Sorry.
I figured. I have a tendency to do that. Scare people away. We've got a lot to cover today too, so I need to. I'm going to try this. Make sure you guys can see my desktop.
Yep.
Sweet. Did it stop sharing?
It did.
Okay, let's try this one last time.
It's back.
Okay. Go ahead and pull up your GitHub pages because we're going to start from that side today. Actually, that was more valuable. I think let's take it out. Okay. Anybody who can turn on their screens, it always really helpful for me. I'm sorry, I find it very difficult to engage people virtually, period, let alone when half the room's silent. Also, I'm here by myself, even though I have been assured that someone would come up and visit me. But you know, that's all right. Screw everybody. I didn't like any of you anyway.
I don't feel like driving from Norman. I'm so sorry. You'll survive though.
Wow. Thank you. What a nice thing to okay, you fail. I'm sorry. You're just getting an F. That's it.
Do we get grades in here?
Yes, as of now, right this moment, everyone gets grades. One of the distinct advantages to teaching JavaScript 2. Oh crap, I'm going to open up a chat window, otherwise I'm not going to see chats, am I? Got it, thank you. Maybe someday. All right, well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I've got like 5 windows open across, or 15 windows open across 5 desktops at this point. But I'm trying to keep things on the main screen here, the one that you guys are seeing right now, so that hopefully it's zoomed in enough you can see stuff. If I don't see a question or something, please unmute, just speak up, okay? I've got so many different things open up right now. But one of the distinct advantages of teaching JavaScript 2 is I get to teach this class. This class, higher order functions, are like the shit. They are just the bomb. They turned programming into something that COBOL people did, to turn it from that into something that is nearly art. And it's like my favorite thing. It's one of the things that Zach and I bonded over. It certainly wasn't hair or personality type. No, it was higher order functions. So we're gonna mess with that quite a bit today. All right, I'm gonna go get started because we have 1 hour. We've got a lot to go through, and I want to make sure that I'm available for questions because this can be difficult. Higher order functions are one of the harder things that people who haven't programmed run into. They can be very difficult if you're not used to them. So what I'm going to do is, instead of teaching them from like a higher level standpoint, I'm actually going to go from a very basic, straightforward example that you guys can all see, and then we'll transform that over time to a couple different higher level functions, and that will kind of show you what the benefit is and why it happens and that kind of stuff. But before we do that, I wanted to take a second, make sure everybody goes through this process again, since we're going to do this every single solitary time, because you need to do this every single solitary freaking time. And that is setting up your GitHub repository, setting up your projects, and getting everything into source control as part of the process. It gives you the command line experience that you need to get practice on. It also gets you the Git experience you need practice on. And so we're going to set this up to begin with. So everybody can see my desktop? I can't hear any of you, so somebody
Yes.
speak up. Yes, no,
Yes.
good,
Yep.
We can see it, yeah.
excellent. So here's my profile. Obviously, that disturbingly handsome fellow staring back at you. I'm going to go to repositories, and I'm just going to create a new one. All right, my repository name. We're going to keep this pretty easy, so let's just do module 3, week 3. Okay, I'm going to add a README file to this one. We'll make it fun. Okay, and then I'm just going to do create repository. Make sure it's public because you don't want to have to pay for this. Yay! So far, so good. Everyone here? Okay, see the code button? Some of you guys ran into this. I tried to ask for authentication. You shouldn't need it with your SSH keys. So make sure this SSH option. SSH is a command line interface. So you guys work on your command line. SSH is a way to create an encrypted tunnel between 2 command lines. So it gives you command line access on a remote machine. It's how you end up managing remote servers that are in the cloud most of the time. So you probably need to get used to SSH access anyway. I'm going to copy that. Okay. I'm going to jump over to my command line. I am in home Bobby. So I want to get into my projects folder, which is where I keep all of my projects. can see all of my wonderful projects. I've got too many of them in there. Okay. And because this is a brand new project, I created it on GitHub. I'm going to git clone, and then I paste that in there. And it will go boom. Congratulations, it's downloaded the whole thing. I should be good. Everyone gives me thumbs up when they're good. I meant the little emojicon. Half of you don't have your screens on. Oh, I'm seeing more. Good, good, good. Yep, excellent. Okay. So on my command line, I'm going to CD. By default, it creates a folder. Here, we can see the folders real quick. It creates a folder that is identical in name to the project name, which is super handy when you're trying to figure out which project. So I'm going to CD into my module 3, week 3. Notice I typed CD MO tab. Get used to using that tab. You should not have to type a lot of crap. You've got a command line for a reason. Okay. Let me clear that out. We'll do an LS. And hey, I've got a README file. Yay!
Real quick, how did you get that README in there?
When I created the project on the GitHub, I chose create README as one of the options. It had a go ahead and create README. If you don't have a README, don't worry about it. We'll make one. So you can make it. We're going to edit this one anyway. Okay. So that gets me through my first part, which is checking out GitHub, doing stuff. We can make changes in here. We can do all kinds of crap, and boom, we're off and running with our GitHub repository. Remember our 3 commands, right? Git add, git commit, git push. Okay. You do those 3 commands all the time, and everything will you'll get your infinite undos. It'll push up. You'll get all your beautiful little dots on your profile. See all my dots? I have more dots than most of you. This is not okay. You guys need the job. I don't need it. I'm good. So most people don't even want to hire me for work because it'd be bad. So are we good before I move on? I know that was like 5 minutes, but that's about how much time you should spend with setup on Git. Speak now or forever. I'm getting more thumbs up. Okay. Half of you are on the toilet typing this stuff, aren't you? That's why I'm not getting screens. I mean, I appreciate that, but still. Okay. Now, last week we talked about Node. Okay. Can somebody tell me what Node is? Because we talked about it like 3 different times to make sure everyone understood what Node is. Shauna, what is Node? You have to unmute. I can't hear you. She can't use a computer. Jason, what is Node?
Node is basically a software that allows us to use JavaScript on our terminal side.
Excellent. Congratulations. You are not failing much like Kaylee. So excellent. Good job.
I found my unmute. Couldn't have said it better myself, Jason.
That's exactly what she
I got
was.
you.
She was going to be like, it's a module that, anyway. Okay. So there are a couple things that Node does. It gives you a REPL. Remember how we can write code directly into our command line? So we could do if I just decide to type no, I can do 1 + 1 and do my math directly inside, right? Okay, so it gets me a REPL. It also gives me a set of accesses to the local file system, because JavaScript only runs in the browser. You have no access on the file system. The third thing it does, and I kind of said this in passing, can anyone tell me what the third thing that Node does for us? Anybody? I will not call on anyone's name for like a week if they can name it. All right, Node, this was kind of going quick last week and we went over. Node also provides package management and library access for us. So we can make libraries. A library is just a bunch of code that we've moved out into a file. And then we can then import that in so that we don't have to replicate our code over and over again. All right. Last week we made a file and just kind of imported it in. I think we used the import method, but anyways. But it provides us module access. So we can download, install, and use modules. So let's create a little let's create a little application here real quick. I'm going to open up my editor. First, I'm gonna, let's just make an index.html file. So I'm gonna touch index.html. Oh, I'm sorry, JavaScript, index.js file. Okay, now touch only makes an empty file that takes up 0 space. So it's an easy way to make, if you need to make a file in a folder and you just want to dump, you just want the folder name already created there. It also makes it easier to open. So if I look, now I've got an index.js and a README file. I'm going to go ahead and open my text editor here. So I've got to refresh because I'm working backwards from everything. No. Yep. All right, so I have an empty index.html file. And we're just going to start with a nice standard console log. This is a really, really boring message. Okay. So now if I jump back to my command line, you can see that my index.html file is not 0, it's 57 bits or bytes, right? And if I want to run that program, I can just do node index.js, and it will print me this wonderfully boring message, okay? Can everybody get this? Thumbs up? Yes? Make sure we're at this point, because this is when the stuff gets exciting.
I'm struggling. It's telling me on the touch, it's not recognized as a name of a commandlet.
You don't have to touch the file. It's easier for me to open when that's the case. So if you want, you can just open up a text editor. Just make sure to save that file into your project's module 3 week folder as index.js
Okay.
inside of VS Code. So make sure you're in yours won't be home Bobby. I mean, unless you call yourself Bobby on your computer, right? But it'll look something like that. I'm surprised Touch isn't installed. Are you using the Windows terminal or are you using the Git bash?
Oh, that might be the problem. I think I'm in.
I don't ever
Yeah.
use the Windows terminal. It's awful.
All right, I got it. Oh,
There's like Auschwitz, then there's hell, then there's the Windows terminal. So you don't ever want to spend any time in that thing. Okay. So this is great and this is cool, but this is a really boring message, right? I mean, it literally says it's a really boring message. I don't want a really boring message. I want to liven it up a bit. Okay. So I'm going to use something called the node pack. I lost somebody. Oh, okay. They got sick of my random jokes. Hopefully I didn't offend anyone with the word Auschwitz. Okay. So we're going to use something called the node package manager. One of the things that Unix is very good at is doing installs of software directly over the network and without having to have like a UI to have to manage that. And Node has a built-in package manager. So you can take these packages or these modules, you can actually store them online and then provide them publicly for people to download and install. So we're going to go ahead and install one. And the one we're going to install is called, I would really like my command line to be shorter, but let me do this. We're going to do npm. So npm is a tool that's built in with Node. It's the Node package manager. Okay. And you can just say node install. And I want to install a package. We're going to install the console log colors. Okay. And it will download and install that package into your project folder. All right, let's do a really quick ls. And you'll see now, besides the index file and the README file, I also have a node modules. So we can ls the node modules, and you'll see that my console log colors are in there. Because as software packages, right, these are things that are part of our project, and we want them installed in the project directory. You're not installing this module for the entire operating system. You're just installing it for this project. You'll be using different versions of different modules on different projects. So it installs it directly into the folder you're in this node modules folder. You'll also see immediately that there is a package.json. This is the node configuration file. It is, it tells the node package manager as well as node itself that I have some libraries. This is what they are. This is what should be installed. And this is how, these are the versions that are at, all that kind of stuff. It's basically configuration for your node environment. And then this package.log file, which is actually the one that you want in your production environment. It's the one that says, these are the verified versions of exactly the packages that need to be installed to run this if I decide to deploy this out to a production server. Okay. So far, so good? Yay. Okay. Well, we're going to use this module real quick. And the way we do that is with something called the import statement. Okay. We're going to import, make sure I got all my stuff right. Colors, which is color, which is kind of the core library. Log, which gives us access to the log system there. And then I'm going to do red and green. Those are the colors we want. Okay, so I'm importing 4 different pieces of software from this package. A package can contain multiple modules, right? And I need 4 of those modules. So the package that we installed is console log colors. I'm installing color, log, red, and green. Those 4 are going to give me what I care about in this case. Now, I'm going to have a problem. If I actually try to run this right now, I'm going to get this wonderful error message. This error message is because the current version of Node uses the old import statement that isn't used by things like React and stuff nowadays. And so we actually have to make a small configuration change. I'm showing you this for 2 reasons. First, if you see this error message, then you know what it is and you can fix it. But secondly, we're going to be using import in your future classes for things like React and Mongoose and Express and stuff like that. So you're going to need to know the import language. And it's better I teach you this than teach you the old one, because this is what everybody is using now. It's the one you're going to see most often now. And if you run into this error message, you can fix it yourself. What we need to do is, if you look at, let me see. If we look at our package.json file, we need to open that, and we need to make a small configuration change to make that work. So I'm going to open up my package.json file. Not that one. There we go. So you can see that the package.json file is just JavaScript object notation. It's just JavaScript itself. Okay. So I am going to add this line. Type : module. All right. Needs to be right above your dependencies. Notice the dependency we have in there, console log colors. It also marked the version that we installed for us. So it knows what version is installed on your machine. But we're telling Node that we're going to make this project is going to be a module so it can support the import statements that we're looking for. Make sure you include this comma. Otherwise, you'll get in trouble. Okay, if we
I'm
save
having
that,
trouble finding the file.
do you have a
Be in
index.js?
my folder, right?
It should, okay. Do you have your node modules folder in your project folder?
Let me make sure. All I see is in that project folder is index.js. So I missed something.
So when you were in that folder, you didn't run your npm install. Sorry.
Yeah, I was in module 3.
When you
Week
type
3.
PWD, did it say module 3, week 3?
Well, it
Wait a
says right before I did the npm install console log colors, it shows that I was in module 3, week 3.
And this is not a folder that's in an existing project. It's a brand new project, right?
Brand new.
You didn't try to put this in your module 3 or your OK Coders project folder that you worked on last week?
I don't think so. Let me go back. Nope,
I think you broke something.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
keep going. I'll figure it out.
No, well, start with PWD, make sure you're right folder, run that npm. Run this command again. And then once that command is finished running, make sure that you've got a node modules, a package.json, and a package lock file in there as well.
Yeah, it should when I do the ls, it shows that it's all in there, but I can't find it. I can't get back to it.
In VS Code or on the terminal?
VS Code. And I think, is that where I screwed up? Because I thought that's where you were.
Probably the terminal. VS Code and terminal are two separate applications unless you're using the terminal directly inside of VS Code.
I'm using the terminal. I'm just using the terminal by itself, but I did go back to VS Code to see where I could see it all and I didn't see it anywhere. So I
Okay.
don't know how you opened up what you opened up here.
Go ahead and go to do a file open and then go to that module 3, week 3 folder and open that folder. It should appear on the right or left. So for example, like mine, if I hit this, actually I need to,
Like, so what are you in right now? Is that a Visual Studio type thing?
it is a Visual Studio type thing. This is, you remember that Vim thing I told you about last week that no one
Yep.
should ever have to deal with? Yeah, this is it. So. This is Vim. I live in Vim. My life is Vim.
So I have module 3, week 3 open in Visual Studio, and I was trying to find that folder so I could go in and change the configuration, but all I see in Visual Studio is index.js.
But your command line says it's there?
Mhm.
Okay, I have no idea what's going on then. One of those is not pointing to the same folder.
Okay. All right, keep going. And this is being recorded, so I can go back and look at it later and kind of troubleshoot from there. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to do my node index.js again, and it's still a really boring message, but it's a different really boring message because now it's not erroring out on me. So let's go back here. Okay, that's the only thing we need to do in that package.js file. We're going to go ahead and go back to our index.js. Not there. Okay, so this is the existing program we have. We're going to instead now inside of our log function, we're going to do color red, and then we're going to put a couple brackets around that. We'll need a second closing bracket. And we're going to save it. And now if we do node.js, we get this is a really, really boring message. So it's not really, really boring anymore. We can change it to this is not a boring message. And if we want to try, like, for example, green, we can do green. And now we get colorful messages. You look Jonas, you look very confused.
I'm not confused at all. It's just your console logs sound like something Borat would say.
My console log looks like something
The message. This is not a boring message. You're not familiar with Borat. It's okay.
I am not that old. I'm actually familiar with Borat. Dude, you are really cruising for a bruising. I'm telling you. That sounds like something my grandpa would say right there. All right, everyone give me a thumbs up when they get to this spot.
Bobby, will you go back to your package.json? I think I missed to see how you modified it so that it can change.
Like this. Yeah. I'm sorry, I was looking down. How many thumbs up do I have? Who's still with me? And who have I totally lost? Good. Valerie, good. Harrison's good. Liz is good. No one cares if Kaylee's good.
All right, listen. The problem with giving people a hard time is eventually they take revenge on you. Some of these days I'm going to have the entire class up here on a Wednesday night just screwing with me. But that's okay. I like that outcome. We'll be all right. All right. We're good? Because we've got half an hour left and we need to get into the meat of this whole thing, which is actually the higher order functions. So all of this was to show you, make sure you got GitHub set up, you know how that works. Show you how packages work. You can imagine how useful this is, right? Like there are packages for everything. If I wanted to pull up console log colors on the website, we do node console log color, right? And no, I want the actual package. Colors. And it will somewhere in here, console log colors, it'll bring up the NPM repository where it is. And you can see how to install it. It'll give you usage, tell you how to set up the environment, what options are for things like background colors versus foreground colors, different styles, all that kind of stuff. So excuse me, you can go in here and basically look up the documentation. There are literally hundreds of thousands of node modules out there, everything from doing complex mathematical operations to doing linear regression analysis to React or Nest if you're doing web API development, whatever you can possibly think of. There are node packages out there. So we don't actually write a ton of this code. We reuse a lot of code. We're going to be using Express, Mongoose, React as part of all of this, and that way you guys don't have to write that steps, right? We're going to use those and then use those pieces to build the building blocks to build your application itself so that you don't have to do all from scratch. So that's all really important. But the main part is showing you how node modules work, making sure you use Git, and making sure that you understand how to do version control. All right, there's a couple things we need to do clean up first because I want to save where I'm at. So let's do a git status. You can always type git status. It never breaks anything. We've got one problem that has to be fixed before we can do anything else in this directory. And that is you never really want to install your node modules folder. Okay, so we don't want to put node modules into version control because it's not our code. And anytime it updates, we're going to get 10,000 lines of changes that we don't care about. We only really want to track the changes that we care about. So I'm going to do echo single quote, node modules, star, single quote, and then I'm going to send this to something called dot get ignore. Without getting into too complex of stuff, what this command does is it says, I want to put this line into a file called dot get ignore. By default, Unix doesn't show, when you type ls, it doesn't show dot files because they're kind of configuration files and usually ignored. But Git will read it and it will ignore anything that is in a single line at a time in your get ignore folder. So if I do this, and then I type get status, you'll see that I have a get ignore file to add to my project, which is good because I never actually want to add this in there. But then I have the 4 files I care about. So this is no longer in there. So this command is what you want to type. Generally, you do this for temporary files, for temporary build files, for password files and stuff that you don't want in there. Anything that has related to the modules. We can actually type npm install, and as long as that package.json file's there, it'll automatically just upload everything that says the package.json is supposed to be in this project. So that way we don't even have to worry about the node modules folder. It'll install everything for us. I'm going to get add -a because I want to add all 4 of those. Okay. Git commit. And then to make sure it's up on GitHub, I'm going to do git push. And if you want to see my GitHub repository now has a little darker dot and we could go into into my folder, my repo here. And you can see that I've actually updated the files. So there's my get ignore readme index package and package.json. Questions? Everyone good? Thumbs up real quick. We're at 6:01. We need to move on to higher order functions. Excellent. Okay. So let's go back to our index.js file. All right, I'm going to create an array real quick called numbers. We're going to use numbers for a lot of stuff here for the next bit of an example. But it's a pretty simple array. We'll just put 5 numbers in there. Okay. And let's pretend I want to create a function that effectively just adds 1 to the numbers, right? So we could do this with a for loop inside of our function. So we'll create a function called add1, right? We're going to pass in an array. And then we'll do for let I equal 0. I is less than array dot, not that array, I want the other array. Array dot length. If I can spell length, that helps. Right, I++. Everybody remember their for loops? Does this look vaguely familiar to anybody? And then we could just do console log color red array right? Everybody, this all look familiar to everybody? For loops? So the loop basically just sets I to 0. It's going to run until the length of the array, which is 5, is as long as the length of the array is smaller than that number. then it's going to run this command, and after it runs it once, it'll increase that number by 1. Okay, so let's call this function real quick. Right, so that's our function call, and we're just going to pass it in numbers. So far, so good. And if we run this now on our terminal, we'll get this wonderful node. Hey, we got our message, and we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because we added 1 to each of the arrays. Yes, thumbs up, please. We're going to do this like 5 times. We got to be able to get through the at least 4 loops pretty quick. All right. Now, the one thing that I want you guys to understand that's actually going to make this useful to everybody, thank you, is that, and this is kind of the big takeaway from this, is that for languages that support higher order functions, okay, your argument, so this array piece here, can actually be a function itself, okay? So not only can you pass in arrays or hashes or indexes or objects or text or numbers or whatever else you want, you can actually pass in functions and then execute the functions inside of that function itself. This is where we're getting very meta, right? So you can have functions that can take functions as arguments. The first question people have usually is, why the fuck would I ever want to do that? Because if you're not used to doing it or thinking that way, it can seem really crazy. Like, why wouldn't I just do it inside the function? Why instead would I pass in a function to do it? And that's a pretty good question up until you start to realize the power of this. So we're going to do this exact same thing, only instead we're going to do numbers. And because numbers is an array, it already has a function built into the object type of array called for each. For each is a higher level function. It's a function that takes a function as an argument. So, you could do like this, but that's not going to help you much, because what for each is actually expecting is a function itself, okay? It's expecting you to put in something that says, do something for me with everything in the numbers. So numbers is an array. It's going to, for each thing in the array, do something, and it's going to do whatever function we pass it in. So instead of having to do this whole for loop and then calling that our function with numbers in it, we can just do numbers, call our higher order function, and then declare a function inside of this. But because I don't need the function to actually exist for any real length of time, I can actually just not even name the function. We'll just call it function. We'll just say function. And then instead do console log color green, right? Num plus 1. So function's already going to take, so for each, you pass in a function that takes the argument of each element of the array. So for each element of numbers, num is going to get populated with that. And then we can just execute the function in line in here. So you can see, instead of having to type this whole thing up here, even if we get rid of this line here, sorry. Instead of having to type this whole thing here, we can just type numbers.forEach, function num, and then do our console log with num plus 1, because all of that code is already figured out for us. It's going to loop through that array and do it for us. So let's make sure that I'm not insane and that this actually works, because, I probably mistyped something. Look at that. So red is the crappy way to do it. Green is the better way to do it. But you can see how much clearer that is, right? So you're just executing something on each element of that array. For each is not actually like what we call the Holy Trinity, but it's probably the most commonly used higher level function, a higher order function. Gets used all the time because so often what you want to do is something to everything in that array, and you want to print it out, or you want to update it, or you want to add it to a total or something else like that. For each is a very, very common one. But I gotta check my notes real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything. So functions, so your functions can actually take functions as arguments. And there's a bunch of built-in functions that are already in place called higher order functions that you can use to basically execute on these elements themselves. And this is really stinking powerful stuff. Questions before I clean this up even more? Yeah. Does everybody agree that this part here looks a lot nicer than having to type up all of this? Yes?
Yes.
Isn't it beautiful? I mean, it's like, yes, I'm just taking numbers and I'm treating it like I'm just going to like execute on it. Boom, we're running. We're good to go. Now, this function here is what's called an anonymous function. You didn't give it a name. It only exists for the life of it. Jonas, why are you tilting your head like, yeah, I guess that's technically right? Is that what you're saying there?
Not at all.
Okay. It's called an anonymous function because the function doesn't have a name. We haven't assigned it to a name. It only exists to be passed into the for each loop. This is super common. It happens all the time. In fact, it happens so often that people get tired of typing the word function. So there's an easier way to do this, which is called the rocket dash. What do they call it? Rocket. What is the rocket format there? Numbers. I can't remember what they, anyway, but we can do for each, and instead we can just do num like we did before. And put it into brackets like this, console log color red num. Oh, that's going to be problematic if I don't do this first. So what we've done is instead of having to type, I'll comment, instead of having to type function num and then do this whole format like this, we've replaced it with something like that. Okay, so it's the exact same thing. It's just a shorter form. It also does a whole bunch of things in the background that are actually memory optimized and keep you from having side effects. But we won't get into that. If you use this format, you're basically saying, I want to create a function, an anonymous function, where the input to the function is this. And since we know for each automatically populates that, it will take care of that for us. So I'm going to use this format, and you're going to see this format a lot, okay? Where you basically, you're just embedding this in here. What's even crazier, honestly, is that you can do it like this. If you don't do multiple lines, you don't even have to include the square brackets. So even though this doesn't look like you're calling a function, that's actually building a function and then executing that function itself. We'll do another example here in a minute. I'm going to comment this out so that my code doesn't explode. All right, rocket hash, rocket, anyway. So it's just a short form of basically building a function. So far, so good? Yes, thumbs up. We're halfway through and I haven't gotten to the Holy Trinity yet. So let's talk about the Holy Trinity. Okay, the Holy Trinity of functional programming is map, reduce, and filter. These three higher level functions, higher order functions, effectively allow you to do anything in any combination of them with anything you can possibly think of in terms of objects and arrays. They are so common and they are so useful and they are so powerful that for most people, functional programming is just map, reduce, and filter. They're so powerful that Google built an entire search engine basically off of map and reduce and changed the search engine landscape for all time. Okay, they work slightly differently. Obviously, otherwise they would just all be the same thing. but we'll go through each one of them with an example ourselves. Okay? Everybody on feel pretty good about this kind of getting started? Okay, let's make sure our code runs because I don't want to have broken something that had to be troubleshooting that. Yes, still jumping our numbers. We're great. Okay, so these are three slightly different capabilities that you generally want. We're going to start with filter. Okay. The one we just used, by the way, is for each. So for each is an example of this, of one of these higher order functions. But the big three, the holy trinity, the great of the great are map, reduce, and filter. The easiest one to kind of understand is filter. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that. So let's go ahead and do, what we want to do is we want to create we want to print an array, that same array of numbers, but we only want to show the odd numbers. We want to filter out the even numbers, okay? So let me put that in. Nope, that's not what I want. All right, so I am going to create a function called isOdd. It's going to take an array, just like our one up here did. We're also going to set another array called odd array. And then all we do is we loop through that whole thing. And if array is divisible by 2, is modulus 2, which means that if when you divide it by 2, the remainder is not 0, then we will add that number to our new array. And when we get done, we'll just return that number. Okay. So in practice, what this means is we can do const odd array. And we'll just set this to isOdd and give it our numbers. Right. And I'll just console log out the array so that we can see the whole array. Okay, so what my function inside of here is doing, all my function really is doing is checking, holy cow, guys, I'm sorry, is checking to see if the number is odd. If the number is odd, then we're going to add it to this new array, and then we're going to return this array. So when I call this function, I will get a new array that just contains the odd numbers. And if I run it, it should look something like this. So there's my new array, and it only contains 1, 3, and 5, right? But this is so much freaking code. It's so freaking annoying. It's absolutely obnoxious. And the reason why it's obnoxious is because all I'm doing, the only thing I'm really doing is this, and then pushing the stuff on there, right? All this setup, all this configuration, all of it, it's just a pain in the butt. All I'm doing is filtering the code. So what filter does is it takes a function that will check the value of your input and then set an array or the return results of that array to based on that filter. All right, so it's literally filtering your results for you. So if I want to type it as a filter, I can do the exact same thing. We'll do numbers, filter, all right? Oh, gosh. And then I'm going to give it my anonymous array, my anonymous function. And all we're going to do is check with number modulus 2. Does everyone know what modulus means, by the way? Anyone who doesn't know? Okay, so modulus is a mathematical operation. It basically says if you think of it like division, except instead of returning how many times it's divisible by as a fraction or whatever else, it just returns what the remainder is. So 2 modulus 3 would be 1, or 3 modulus 2 would be 1, because 2 can go into 3 one time with a 1 remainder. It just returns the remainder. So modulus is always going to return 1 if it's odd. Modulus 2 will always return 1 if it's odd and 0 if it's even. It's actually used in cryptography tons. Okay, so it's a really, really important operator.
And it's actually, it has a tendency to be very computationally easy to do, which is one of the reasons why it's so stinking useful. And it doesn't like something. I don't know what it doesn't like, but number divisible by 2, exponential, T server, ls, lint.
Do you have too many equal signs?
Actually, I don't.
No,
So-
it's supposed to be 3, because it gave me that error too, and then it stopped when I made it 2.
Oh, crap, you're right. What the heck just happened? Okay. Yeah, sorry. All right, so in this case, we can do, we can then just set it to our const easy odd EASY odd array. Right, and then console log easy odd array. So if I jump back over now and we run it again, something did not, I didn't have number defined. Oh yeah, because I used num here, but then I used number here, so. Right, because this is my function, so this is the variable inside my function. And I obviously did something incredibly wrong because it's returning nothing, which is great. Just a good sign. Numbers, filter num to, what am I doing wrong here? Somebody pointed out. I have my notes, so I should be able to get this. Excellent. Jonas, what am I doing wrong? What am I missing?
You would call my name. I have no idea, Bobby.
Come on, man. I don't have to push it. It should just be good. Numbers, did I misspell numbers? No. Filter, good. That's good. Easy odd array. I don't know what the heck I did. It's supposed to automatically return the array that just matches that too. So I literally have no, I wonder if I'm actually modifying the array up higher. Let me check something. Because I know I don't here. At one point in time, well, let's see what happens where my numbers is at right now. So this is troubleshooting. Welcome to real life troubleshooting on this. No, not that window. So my array is good. I wonder if it's not executing the completion of the function. Nope, that's not it. Yes, and this is definitely how we like to do this stuff in real time. True, false, true, false, true. Yes,
So all of that looks good. So what am I missing? It's doing it the way it's supposed to. It's not returning the result on, so I broke something. It's good. Excellent.
Do you need a return statement?
I should not. I shouldn't need a push either. That's kind of the whole point of filter is that I don't need to actually. Don't have to include that. I have 5 minutes to go through the remaining two of these. Huh. Well, okay.
I asked ChatGPT and it says, it expects a callback function.
This is the callback function. So this callback is this part right there, but that's good. I'm missing something in my volume. Let me get rid of, maybe on a single line, it's assuming that my input is problematic. I don't think this, I keep doing this. Ah! Okay, so for some reason, it doesn't like the fact that I use the bracket format on a single line. So if I bet that would work if I did this. So if I did it to 2 lines, let's see if it works. It does not. What is it going? I'm expressly declaring the callback function, so it doesn't like that. Okay, well, we'll stick with this. But that works. So here you can see my callback function. I'm guessing that when I put brackets around there, what's happening is the function goes, okay, you've declared the entire function space, so I don't actually have to populate the array for you, which is good to know. Okay, interesting. Let me give you one more example. Oh yeah, definitely want to do this real quick while we got the chance. So get status, get add dash a, get commit, showing off for each filter colors. All right, so let's do another one. We'll do map this time. Map is my all-time favorite. I love map so much. I don't even consider a programming language that doesn't have map to be a real programming language. Okay, so map does something slightly different. What it does is map allows you to pass in again, another a function into the map function. And what it does is return a new array of the type that you're, a new array that allows you to do any kind of transformations on, I'm sorry, a new object. It can be an array, but it doesn't have to be. You pass it in a function that executes on every object that's in there. So think JSON, for example. This stuff right here is an object that contains 1, 2, 3, things inside of it. So map will let you make a change on there, and then it returns a new one. The reason why it's nice that it returns a new one, and this was the same thing with filter too, is that you operate on the data that gets passed in, but you don't actually modify the original data. And this is really important in a lot of these higher order functions, because you operate on the previous data, but you get a new object out of it. So we can do things like define this const here and get ourselves a new array out of it without actually modifying the old data. The reason why this is important too is it allows you to highly parallelize your code base. It makes the code execute a lot faster. And without this kind of functionality, you really can't do the kind of things that you do for like gaming or blockchain or artificial intelligence or anything like that. When you change the data inside of a function, that you operate on, it's called causing a side effect, because what that means is that if you don't run the code in exactly the same order at exactly the same speed, you're not going to get the same results, because that you're changing the data. Then if something else changes the data, then if that one didn't finish changing the data, you get into trouble. Where if you pass in data and then just create a new object off of that data, you get something that that can run at speed, because it doesn't matter what the data was before, since it never gets really changed. So here I'm going to run my thing here. So this is a pretty easy one. In this case, we're going to take in our array, and for every one of the array, we're going to create a new array that has a number one larger than the number in the previous array. So if filter said we don't want to see all results, so we pass in a function that filters out results. This one is, I'm going to pass in a function that modifies every element of my array. Okay. And again, we have the really crappy code that's really annoying and, you know, everybody hates. So let's do a map call. Anyone want to guess what the first two things I'm going to type are? Come on, look at my previous examples when doing for a map higher order function. What am I going to do?
Const add one more.
Well, no, we already had one const one, add one more down here. No, for higher order functions, remember we're operating on the data directly. So we're going to do numbers dot map, right? So then our map call, inside that map call, we are simply going to pass in our anonymous function. And then all we have to do now is do num plus 1. I love this. 1 second. So this is going to return our, oh, I did do construct, sorry. New array. Yes, thank you. You're right. The const part is on there. But the numbers.map part was the part I was interested in. So here we're passing in a function. It's going to operate on every one of the numbers. And that function is simply going to take that element. So it's going to take 1 in this case and add 1 to it. And the output will be a brand new array that contains all of that from before. So here we go. How much nicer this is. Isn't it spectacular? And we're going to watch it break, I'm sure, because that's what happens here. Yes, excellent. Didn't break on me this time. It is 6:32, and so I will paste in a reduce example. Actually, I probably have it in the meeting notes, but I can drop all this in here. Reduce is just like it sounds. You take an array, and in this case, we can you can just do a single operation that reduces it all to into a total, right? So think of it as like summing up your results here. So let's do we'll just do the example here. Const total equal to numbers that reduce. All right, go do that part there. We're gonna do our num again. Want to make sure I get this. Oh yeah. In this case, we've got sum and number, because we're gonna reduce can be run multiple times. So its output will be, it will return. This is actually a lot of fun. It will return so it's going to take in 2 arguments. One is the result from the previous time it ran itself, and then num is of course the number that's getting put in there. So if this seems a little complicated, it can be, but reduce can be executed on self recursively. So we need to have a state where the output of this becomes the new input for this when it runs itself again. What am I missing?
You put a colon instead.
Good, I. Oh, I've actually got to console log it out, right? Console log total. And there you can see the results of our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Phew, sorry, that was a lot. I know my goal is to like smash as much shit in your head as possible and see what sticks. So for homework, if you guys check out the module 3 part of our classroom work, I will actually, let me just pull it up real quick, but let's look at curriculum. You will see that there is a day 3 module 3. Good. You'll see that there is a new project underneath there. It is with Free Code Camp, so we're still working down the Free Code Camp exercises, okay? And it's basically making a spreadsheet using higher order functions. So that's what that spreadsheet, it's pretty cool. And they provide some of the formatting stuff for you to make it look like an actual spreadsheet. So we're gonna go through that exercise. That's what you guys are gonna be working on for effectively the remainder of this project. It will most likely take you for all of module 3 to finish it up. So next Saturday is a work day, just a work on your own kind of day. I'll be up here helping anyone else who has questions on it, but you should go ahead and get started on that. It's really important. This may seem like fairly complicated. It comes really quick once you start to grep it. So you just got to do it some. And what's more is this is how you see code. I don't remember the last time I wrote a for loop. Okay, so if you don't get it, then you're gonna have a hard time reading code because no, people don't extend out for loops. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, but I'm gonna check all the messages here real quick since I'm let's see. Shauna, someone sent me instruction on how to change the configuration to get rid of the error after doing this. Console color is not defined. Did somebody help her? Type module dependency. Yep, good. Did you ever get it working?
No, I made another change and I don't see the same thing that I was seeing. I'm still seeing an error, but I don't see anything on line 9.
It's show me what the error message is and then show me what the file is.
Can I share my screen?
Sure. Who's left? If anybody's got questions, hang out. I will be happy to help. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all on Saturday. Notes are pushed up. It should be in the curriculum. You should be good to go. All right, show me your code.
See you Saturday.
You just kept going. Yep. Scroll up. Okay, and when you, okay, so what's happening here is that notice on line 1, color, log, reg. Reg is not an importable.
Is that all it was a
So start
typo?
with that, save that. Let's see if you can run it. You're gonna need to get rid of numbers filter because if numbers filter is gonna break. Oh, it did not. At least you got that part done. Yay.
Oh. Okay. I just needed to get that working. And then I'll wait for the recording.
Better?
Yep. I'll
I
just
can't
wait for
hear
the
you. I don't
recording
know
and go
why.
back through it. You can't hear me?
Is anybody else talking? Somebody else talked so I can find out if I'm an idiot or Shauna is.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I have no audio.
Oh.
Keep talking, somebody.
Testing, testing. Can you hear us? I don't know what you did.
How did I just learn? Oh, Zoom. Try again.
Hello?
Okay, Zoom muted itself for some reason. Okay,
Okay. Yes, I'm good. Thank you. I'll just go back through the recording and finish the rest of it.
By the way, Shauna, the console will show you where your error is with those arrows and tell you where it broke.
yeah, it does a pretty good job of that. So if you, when your message up there, it did a little arrow that showed it to reg. And it's just that single mistyped character that did it.
Well, it's 2020 in hindsight. Now it just seems so easy.
Oh, yeah, always, every time.
Thanks, guys.
Who else? What else can I do? How else can I help?
I'm sure we'll have plenty of questions on Saturday, so I will see you then. Thanks for class.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Bye, guys.
Hasta luego.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day, guys. Tommy, you have any? Oh, we're good. Okay, bye.